Welcome everyone to Straight from the Paws. Today I have some very special guests with me. I actually have 4 guests. And first of all, I have Joyce Pinsonnault.
Hi.
She's our board of director, and she's also our volunteer coordinator. And then we have Cheryl Furze, also a board of director. Hi, Cheryl. And she's also our ambassador with her 2 lovely children, Pax and Tigger. And who's who? I never know who's who.
Tigger's the little one, the mama's boy.
Okay.
And Pax is over there next to Joyce, giving her a therapy.
Okay, there you go.
I need it.
Yeah, we know that for certain. All right, so today's show is going to be about our volunteer program and also about what we do for outreach program, and that's why these 2 lovely ladies are with us. Joyce, you're an original member of Forever Paws Board of Directors, correct?
Years. Yes.
Many, many years. And you've become a volunteer coordinator in the last several years, correct?
Yes, just about.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Cheryl, how many years have you been on the board?
I don't know. I wasn't on the original board. I think when I started was right about when you got the new building, so 21 years maybe?
No, the new building, you would have been, actually I know that for certain, it's 14.
Okay.
Because my goddaughter was born the day we were moving in. So that's the only reason I remember the number how many years. So it's been quite a few years. We've been in existence 22 years, and as of February, like I said, and we moved into this new building in February of 2000, December of 2014. I don't know. I'm not good with numbers, but anyway.
That's 17 years.
It's a lot of years. We've been there a lot of years. And so I think we'll start with Joyce.
Yes.
Joyce, let's talk a little bit about the volunteer program and who exactly can volunteer and what do they need to do.
Well, we take a lot of, we're always looking for volunteers, number one. We take from some of the schools. They have to be at least 15 in order to be a volunteer or a freshman in high school. We look for seniors, we look for students, we look for anybody. We have some community service time people that come in, some of them through the Corps and some of them through a school or colleges or wherever they need to have volunteer time.
Now, what exactly do they have to do, or how do they contact you to know about becoming a volunteer?
I prefer them to call me at my home number, and that number is available through the shelter. And we usually do the orientation, and everybody has to go to an orientation before you become a volunteer. All right, and that's the tell them more or less what it's all about. Explain some rules and regulations that we have and exactly what the job is all about. It's important for them to find out what they're getting their hands into. A lot of people think it's, walk the dog and pet the kitty, and that's some of it, but a lot of it is a lot of other different things. Figure it being at home and having animals, probably making that 20 times the responsibility of what you have at home.
All right, but let's just step back a minute and talk about, it's usually the first Sunday of the month.
Yes, it is, 9:30.
9:30. And depending if we have fundraisers, then you have to switch it around. But
Oh,
usually,
yes.
I know, and people get upset about that. But I also want people to know, too, that when Joyce tells you you have to come to the orientation, you have to come.
You have to come,
A lot of people have special requests and say, well, I can't make it on a Sunday. I have to go to church, or, sometimes you have to make sacrifices, and that's a sacrifice if you really want to volunteer, because Joyce does work as well, as we know that, Cheryl, and so that if she works, she can't be making special considerations and meeting people at different times to do different things. So people have to understand that we're volunteers. We're on the board of directors.
Yes,
but
we are.
We're also doing other volunteer commitments.
Right.
And you're a volunteer coordinator, and you're the ambassador. Let's talk a little bit about you being the ambassador, Cheryl.
Okay, I started doing this a couple of years ago. Both of my dogs are shelter dogs, and sometimes you'll see posts on Facebook about, well, shelter dogs, you don't know what they came from, and so forth and so on. And I can tell you that these 2 dogs are the best 2 dogs I've ever had in my life.
Absolutely.
And we used to walk quite a bit at Heritage Park, and so many dogs so many folks would meet Pax and say, wow, this guy is just so gentle. He would make an awesome therapy dog. He would go up to a person sitting at the bench that was just had their head down and looked very, very sad. He'd walk right up to them, put his head on their lap, and they'd break into a smile. So we did the training, and the training involves getting a CGC, which is a Canine Good Citizen, and after that you are then tested for their ability to be calm in situations of nursing homes, hospitals, and so forth. It's not that difficult unless you have a very nervous dog. They would do things like drop crutches on the floor or knock over a wheelchair. They'd have people in wheelchairs. And make sure that the dog is comfortable in all of those settings. So since we've been doing this, we go to several nursing homes and several group homes in the area. Last week, I started going to People Inc.
Oh, nice.
And I didn't know how that would go, and it was fabulous. These boys were amazing with the people there, and some of them got, well, right on top of Pax, down on their knees with their arms around him, and he eats it up. He loves it, and they love it. The only thing that distracted him was the whole staff was bringing their lunch in.
Oh, that could be a problem.
Putting it in the microwave. So I think the next time we come, we're going to, please sit, hon. Sit. Thank you. We're going to a different room, so because it is at lunchtime, we go there from 11 to 12.
Sit.
Okay.
So it's amazing, and there was one other thing I was going to say, but it's totally skipped my mind, so
Okay.
we'll just keep talking, and if
We'll get back to you.
remember-
We'll get back to you. Joyce,
Yes.
when you have your volunteers come in, there are some that volunteer at the shelter, but there are other opportunities to volunteer as well.
Oh,
Let's talk
absolutely.
about the program like with Diane, our outreach coordinator. What can volunteers do as well?
A lot of times we have some people that are not physically able to do some of the work at the shelter, and it is taxing. I'm not going to tell you that it isn't, because it is. But a lot of times we have some of the seniors that will come in and say, I want to really help, but I'm not able to do work here. What can I do? So we have Diane Cody, who is our outreach coordinator, and she likes to have people to go out to maybe Walmart or PetSmart, some of the other outreach programs that we have, and to talk about the shelter and to talk about the animals and that sort of thing, and help sometimes take some of the dogs, or cats out to the sites that we go to.
Right, and she didn't say Petco, but Petco is one of them as well.
Right, Petco.
You know,
absolutely.
and you don't have a larger commitment. You can just do it like occasionally, periodically, be on a list. So Diane has that list so she can call people.
Right.
And sometimes it's just collecting money,
Yep.
and other times it's bringing some of the animals. We also need sometimes animals to be transported.
Right.
We have a great program with PetSmart where some of our animals are going to different PetSmarts within Massachusetts, and sometimes we need an animal to be transported, and that's important too. So if we had volunteers to do that as well, that would be very helpful.
And the foster care program as well, too.
Yes.
That's another thing. We're always looking for people to volunteer to take puppies and kittens for us under foster care, to socialize them and to keep them safe, and for them to learn not to be afraid of people.
Some people will say that they're afraid to become a foster parent because then they become foster failures. And I've had several friends that I've known
Yeah,
that
I
has
think
happened
we all
to.
have.
I think that, that is an issue, and you don't know until you try. And Joyce mentions puppies and kittens, but we also have needs for older dogs. Like we just had a
Absolutely.
dog that had a broken leg, and we didn't want to keep the dog at the shelter. And actually a personal friend of mine took the dog home for a couple months, and then the dog she had to go on vacation, and then when she came back, the dog had been adopted, which she was very grateful for and very happy for. But even away, she was in Iceland, and she actually would check Facebook when she could to make sure that if he had gotten adopted or not, and he had. So she was thrilled about it. So I think that it can be a long-term foster, it can be a short-term foster, and it can be sometimes for nursing kittens. I will say that I have a great staff, as you both know, and that if
we're
they
very
need be,
fortunate.
they take the animals home and help foster as well. But I'd like to see them have less time for them to do it, as well as if we can get more volunteers through the community that are willing to help us out at the shelter. I think that's a very important need.
Yeah, very
So
much
Cheryl, what exactly do your two young boys here do when they go to a place?
Well, they're not dogs that go there to entertain, although Tigger is quite a jumper, and if I have any COOKIESs, I can get him to jump about 6 feet off the ground.
Okay.
Pax just delivers the love, and Tigger does too. They're both really sweet. The other thing I forgot to talk about is we do go into the schools. And in the past couple of years, we've been fortunate to have schools call us to come in and give a little talk about what we do at the shelter, as well as how to care for your animals, and what you would need to do if you wanted to adopt an animal, and why it's so much better to adopt than to go to a pet store and buy a dog or a cat. I also bring little bookmarks for the children that tell you what to do if you find an animal in your neighborhood, or what to do if you've lost an animal. It gives you very explicit directions on how to handle that situation. Now, we've been lucky the past couple of years where I've gotten calls, can you come into a particular school? One of the schools I visited last year was the Chase Street School in Somerset. The third graders did a history project where they did a Massachusetts character they had to research, and they did a little show, and they went to other classrooms, and the other classrooms donated money. Well, there are, I think, 3 third grades, and they raised over $600 for Forever Paws. And with that money, and some money we also received from Green School, we put that together, and I think, wasn't that what we paid for that awning to go over the, or partially
Yes,
paid?
partially paid for the dog play yards, yes.
For the awning
Yes,
that
that
keeps
helps.
the dogs
Yep.
that are out in the yard in our shelter, and they have nice runs for our dogs, but they were very, very sunny, and if it was warm weather, it would be way too hot to keep them out there very long. So the children did that, and they felt really, really good about doing that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm always saying on this show is that Forever Paws believes in paying it forward.
Absolutely.
We do everything that we possibly can to pay it forward for our community. And now that we have, you know, Fall River, the city of Fall River's contract, we try to do even more in this area. And I really appreciate everything that people know about the shelter and what we do. We do a lot, and again, not tooting our own horn, but volunteers know, yourselves included, that it's a great shelter. You know, we have a lot going on in that shelter at all times. Our previous show last month is going to be about what we've done, and we've had a great article in the Herald News about what
amazing.
it was a great article about what we've done and what we've accomplished in 2017. So we're paying it forward. We keep moving forward, and we enjoy what we're doing. And I don't want to be remiss, but one of the PetSmart that just opened up at the new South Coast Plaza also has a great area for cats, and those cats are our cats that are in there. So they're adopting our cats over there.
That's awesome.
Another just a community involvement, you know, small businesses working together. The new Starbucks over there, one of the first, well, not one of, the first fundraiser that they had was for Forever Paws. They put a little flyer together of our wish list and all that, and they put us out there. So we, you know, get help here and there and everywhere, but we also, again, we do pay it forward. I think also what I'd like to mention too is that another volunteer, usually my co-host Bev and I, we go to the neighborhood associations. Anyone out there that wants us to come to a neighborhood association, we bring forth some of our, our pamphlets and our materials and let them know what we're doing in their city, so that people can get a better understanding of how we're working with animal control, how ACO works with us, and how we work with them. I think people have a pretty good knowledge of that, and they think they know what's going on, but they don't always know what's going on. So if we could get out there and educate the community about what's happening, that's really also very important. Joyce,
Yes.
what are other opportunities for volunteering? Is there anything else that you can come up with?
Some things, one of the other things is sometimes we have kids who want to do things and then they're way too young. But we've had a couple of them who've had birthday parties. They had their birthday, they have a birthday party. Instead of having gifts given to them, what they do is they take up a collection and come in with like dog food, cat food, kitty litter, bleach, anything. They come with, they get the wish list and they put that together and then come in with all that stuff to the shelter. we hope that they call ahead of time so that we can make sure that we take their picture and put it up on our Facebook page. So even kids that are 7 or 8, 9, they're not able to do, things at the shelter, they can do that.
We also have two, I know that I work with, we take care of like Girl Scout troops or Brownie troops or Boy Scouts. They come in and they'll say they want to do something. They might want to do something for a merit badge. We try to accommodate people. We've had Eagle Scout projects that have been done at the shelter, which it's been a lot of work. I know personally myself, I work as mentoring for high school students. I currently have one from the Met School. She's going to be doing a campaign. She's going to be selling a calendar for us. I think it's for April. And they're going to be available at the shelter. And we're going to, if you want to purchase one, I think it's going to be $10 a calendar. And then she's trying to get gifts for every day of the week. And then people will win the prize. And she and I work together with her advocate from her school, and I worked that out. So this was somewhat of an easier mentoring for me. But sometimes they have to do senior projects that entail a lot of work, and I have to meet with them at the shelter and work on that. So we also do that type of volunteering and helping people out with a mentor program as well. It's again. We do it for the animals, we do it for the love of the animals, but we also, all of us, I think, believe in giving back to the community, and I think that's why we do it. So Cheryl, any special experiences you might be able to share?
Well,
I mean, I'm sure they're all a great time.
Many,
I know, I'm sure.
Many. One of the other things I wanted to mention too, Eleanor Manchester's after-school program at the Green School chose us. Every year she would work with her students in the after-school program, and they would do baked goods.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
And they would sell it to all the other children that were in the program. And they would raise money, and then they would take it and they'd vote for different charities. Well, every time they voted, they would come out. One time it might be the Boys Club and Forever Paws. The next time it might be Cancer Research and Forever Paws. And I always say, why do they keep picking us? Well, they keep picking us because we come in with the dogs. And the kids love seeing the dogs.
Absolutely.
And of course, they all want to volunteer, and the oldest are only in 5th grade. So they can't do it. But I've had some really heartwarming moments. One of the places I go to is in New Bedford. It's an adult daycare. And there was a woman there who never spoke. She was just nonverbal. She would come in, she'd play cards and bingo and things like that. And the first time she really spoke was when I brought the dogs. And it turns out that this woman absolutely loves animals, and she and her husband had formerly owned a horse farm in Dartmouth.
Oh, wow.
And that was the first time she talked.
Oh, that's amazing.
Nice.
And last week when we were at People Inc., there was a man there that just got down on his hands and knees and threw his arms around Pax. There's a lot of heartwarming moments when you see people who are in wheelchairs and handicapped, and the dog will come up and hit their hand, and all of a sudden their face brightens and they'll start to pet the dog. So it's amazing. I was going to retire from teaching and go back to painting. Never happened. Sometimes God has another plan.
Yeah. He sure does.
And I love this one. I love this one. I really enjoy doing this. And I'm so fortunate and so blessed to have these folks as friends and to have these wonderful dogs.
And you used to bring the dogs to the library.
I did.
Yeah,
I did.
Kids used to read to them.
I used to read at the library, and I have a bad back, and there's nothing I hate worse than disappointing kids when it's advertised that I'm going to be there, and then I wake up that morning and I'm not going anywhere.
Sit
So
down.
fortunately, I've only canceled once or twice from doing the dog work. I do all days Tuesdays and half days on Wednesdays with the boys. And we love it. And when I say, come on guys, we're going to work today.
There you go. That's what they do.
We're going to work.
They're on command.
You're working right now. You're just not getting
Sit.
paid. You're volunteer too. Sit, takes.
That's awesome.
Tiki, down. No, I know.
That kind of just proof in the pudding right there. They were ready to go. That's amazing. And you are working today, guys. That's
Yep,
awesome.
Yeah, BCC is going to be sending you a check.
Yeah, I think that, I think that sometimes people wonder, and I know that I feel a lot of the phone calls and a lot of the emails, and they'll say to me, well, what can I do? And I used to, now I just send them over to you, and I say, Cheryl, I sent you an email so you know what's happening. And I think that's important because we're getting more and more, and I think it's wonderful.
Right,
Again,
and I got on it right away.
yeah, and we're giving back to the community. And sometimes Joyce, as a volunteer coordinator, she'll get, contacts, and people will say, well, I have some clients, and can I bring the clients in? And I want people to understand that, we are a business, and it is kind of, sometimes it can be dangerous to have certain kind of clients in. But Joyce, we've had that young lady that's been blind for how many years she comes in?
Oh my goodness, I'm going to say since I started, I think she was my first class.
Okay, so she's been doing it for quite some time.
Yes, she has.
And then we've had some Down syndrome kids.
Yes, we have.
This past summer, we had a highly functioning autistic young man. And at first, it wasn't working. Luckily, I'm retired as well, as you both know, and special ed background, as you know. That's why I'm so good friends with you, because I understand you both. And this young man, they asked, and we were like, Joyce was like, Gail, what do you want to do? I said, well, let me take a look, and let me talk to the situation. And I did, and brought him in, and I decided what I felt he needed, and we worked it out. And I teamed him up with one of our staff that's a full-time person. At first, she was like, you think I can do? I said, yes, I think you can do this. And at the end, she loved the kid. She was sad to see him that he was going. She's hoping he's going to come back again this summer. And currently, I don't even know if you ladies know, but we have a young man that's going to college that is also on the spectrum, and he wants to do what Michelle does, and he wants to do videotaping and so on and so forth, and he needs to get experience. He's got his own camera and equipment, so he's been coming to the shelter on Wednesdays, and he's going to try. He's got a lot of film now, and he's going to try to put something together for us and use it on our website. I don't know if it'll come to volition.
Well,
but
let's see.
We're affording him the opportunity, and very grateful. I met with him, and he, at first he was like, well, I don't think you understand me. And I said, oh, I think I understand you pretty well. And we had, at first he was kind of hesitant about who he was, and after a few minutes he started speaking freely to me about what he knew his disability was, and could we handle such behavior, so to speak. And I said, I think we can do that. I think now that we know and you've been honest and upfront, we'll work around it and we'll be fine. So understand that we do that. But when we have other clients that are very, very special needs, sometimes we just can't have them in, because if they get a scratch on them from a cat, or they're allergic, or they don't know that they're not allergic, then that becomes an issue.
Yeah, and wheelchairs too.
And the wheelchairs.
We don't have.
Right, we're handicapped accessible to a certain point, but it could be very dangerous. And so we try to accommodate in that way, where we ask Cheryl, could you go, like you said, People Inc., and sort of go there and give them.
Give it a shot.
And we try. We try to give it a shot, and it went well. So, and if it doesn't go well, then we realize the next time, and there are people, I know, I've had family in nursing homes that when they would bring animals in, some of them would be very fearful and didn't want to be, or some would say, I'm allergic, I can't be in there right now. And we accommodate. We don't take offense to it. We say, okay, we understand that. And I've said it on the show before, I'm highly allergic. I get shots, and I work around it because this is what I want to do. Was this my plan too when I retired? Absolutely not.
What's that?
Yes,
I don't know. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm retired.
It's not God's plan.
Wasn't God's plan. He opened up that door and I went right through, and here I am today. So, it's a lot. It's different, but it's rewarding to us. It keeps me off the streets. It does. It keeps me from gambling, which I never did. But I could have gone to Foxwood or something.
Talking about volunteers, I had a young man, maybe about 4 years ago, who came in with a mentor. And the mentor said to me, could you, see if he can work here at the shelter? He's nonverbal. He's very shy, and he doesn't like to talk much. But he did speak to me, and I said, so what would you like to do? He said, I don't want to deal with people. I just want to deal with, and I'm not totally comfortable with cats and dogs yet. I said, okay, let's try you to come in to do dishes, which he did. He came in. Never talked, he wanted to be alone. Well, one day I came in maybe about 6 months later, and he stayed. He did stay. He was very, adamant about staying, that's what he wanted to do. So I came in, I couldn't find him in the kitchen. He was supposed to be there. Do you know I had to go after him because he was tripping away with some of the other volunteers? And I said, I thought you didn't want to talk. He said, well, that doesn't mean to everybody. I said, okay.
Oh, that's
So that was a
wonderful.
very good
That is
success story
wonderful.
right there. And his mother had called me and told me, you know, spoken to me ahead of time that he was not social. You know, and I thought that was the greatest thing. I mean, I had to get after him for doing something that, you know, he wasn't supposed to be doing. But inside, it was happy that it was.
Yeah, it
you
is.
know.
It's a great experience. I mean, we have so many. I mean, I have one of our volunteer sons. He's a big guy. I call him Big Mike, and Mike's such a wonderful guy. But he wants to come in. He works with me in the storage area. You know, I work on Mondays, and we do the supplies. And at first it was like I had to sort of show him what I needed to be done. And I mean, he's not, you know, he's not special needs or anything, but you know, he's sort of an anti-people type person. And so we work really well together. And I love it because he says, "Hey, boss, where are you? Come here, do this. I want to get this done."
And you have to see this thing
yeah.
here because Gail is not much taller than I. I think Gail is 5 feet tall. He must be 6'5".
Yeah, he's a big
So
guy.
it looks like a dog in his flea.
And I absolutely, I love, thank you. I love working with him though. He's so good. And you know, there's a lot of, you know, heavy bags of, you know, food and the stuff that we have to move around. But now he's got the routine. He does an awesome job. And it's like, that's his job. That's what he does. So again, we are so blessed with so many volunteers that come in to do different opportunities, different things that, you know, you don't think about. You know, you really don't think about it. But again, to the audience, we do need some volunteers for fosters for cats. We have the applications online. You can come down to the shelter and meet the staff. You would have to come in for an interview. We'd have to ask you, you know, some questions and so on, because we're not just going to let our poor animals go anywhere. It's sort of like foster care for kids. We want to make sure that it's an appropriate foster home, and they're not going to take off and take our animals and not ever see them again. We are very protective of every animal that comes into our shelter, so it's very important to us. But I think it's important that people understand that, again, in our community, we continue to give back. And I think that's what's so different and so great about Forever Paws. You know, like I said, Joyce is an original volunteer as well as on the board of directors.
First volunteer.
First volunteer, and here she is still here. And
Even through all the knee surgery.
Yep, through the
Yes.
knee surgery and you know.
Never missed a beat.
Nope, she's been around, she's been doing her job, and we're all blessed. We are very, very blessed at the shelter to have the people that we have work with us and to continue to work with us and do what we need to do. And so we're in constant need of volunteers. We work with the volunteers. Sometimes we have to say no if we've just got the numbers just not working, but for the most part, it's a great program. And again, I've said this before, and we've had shows about it. We've had a couple of volunteers that have actually gone on and become vet techs or become veterinarians, working at, what is Lindsay doing? She's
a park ranger.
Park ranger. So I mean, we've afforded people opportunities for careers, and I think that's just an awesome thing that we do. Well, I want to thank you ladies, and especially these two lovely young men, for coming and doing all that.
I also just want to mention, if you can't volunteer, then come to our events, our fundraisers.
Absolutely.
That's always important.
Absolutely, and
Just
that's
go online and look them up. We got tons of them.
Yep, and everybody tells me always sees us in the newspaper. So if you get the Herald News, we're there. If not, we're on our foreverpaws.com. You'll find us there. That's a good point, Cheryl. We're always looking for people to come and help us out in that way, and if anybody's got an extra few $1,000 they want to give towards our mortgage, we'd appreciate that as well. We continue to meet that. But again, ladies and guys, thank you for coming today. I greatly appreciate you being here, and hopefully some folks out there will decide to join Joyce in her endeavors, and also enjoy have Cheryl come in and perform with her animals and do a visit. And thank you very much. Take care.